Decorating Pages is a podcast dedicated to taking you behind the scenes of the designs of your favorite TV shows and films. Each episode, I'll be sharing design stories from some of Hollywood's most famous sets, interviews from set decorators, production designers, directors, and actors about creating the look of TV and film, about their design inspirations, and stories that take sets from page to screen. Hello, and welcome to Decorating Pages. I'm your host, Kim Wanup. How you doing out there? I am coming up for air. I have a little bit of renewal in my job that has been so busy. I am set decorating the 4th season of For All Mankind, and it's been unbelievably busy, unbelievably bearing, and just getting sets done for the first block. A block is when you shoot more than one episode at a time. So we shoot in blocks of 2. And so having 2 episodes ready to shoot simultaneously is, as people who do it, it's challenging because it's not like, oh, there's 12 sets in this episode. Well, there's 15 in this episode, so there's 27 sets in, the amount of time that you have to shoot. So it's been, and we've done an amazing job, I'd have to say, my production designer, Seth Reed, in bringing the 4th season into a new decade as the show jumps decades almost every 10 years for every season, which is really interesting and is one of the things that drew me to the show. And they have a bit of an alternate history. So and technology is a little bit further along than reality. So that helps me because we're in the 2000s. So we are done shooting block 1 and almost done shooting block 2, but I have 4 days of double ups. So double ups are when one block or one episode shoots the same day as another episode. So if you can believe it, that means that I have 4 days of 2 units, a first unit and a second unit. One is shooting the first block, the other one is shooting the second block, and it's very confusing for me. I don't know what it is on this show that they will have 3 or 4 or 5 sets per day. So you're shooting like 10 sets a day and it's for 4 days. And I just feel like when this happened a month ago or 3 weeks ago, when the first and the second block were overlapping, I feel like that was like a real low point because I just couldn't keep it straight and it was a lot. And now I'm embarking on these 4 days and it's a lot, but I have asked for some help, and my producers are helping us get through these sets, and even if that means bringing in another decorator, which is I'm so thankful for. So yeah, there are ways to get through the rough times. Like a rough patch, like in a marriage. You just, you do a little therapy and you get through the rough patch, I guess. And so I'm feeling like renewed in a sense, like I have a little breath of air here since I have another decorator coming in, and a little overwhelmed because I have 4 days of 2 units. And then Friday, actually, today is Sunday that I'm doing this. Friday we had 3 units because we had a montage units. We had 3 units going. Yes. So this is what you could be up against, people. You have to be able to multitask. You really gotta have a strong team for this. It's a lot of moving pieces, and I am so thankful that I have such strong buyers and my lead man, Patrick Alvin, my buyers, Ashley Rice, Katie Sheary, and Howard Warman, and my everyone is just so amazing. My coordinator, Shannon Sweeney, my PA, Ashley Enright. I'm just super thankful for the team I have on this because I couldn't do it. You cannot do your job alone without a strong team on big projects. So it is great when you work with people you have a rapport with and you are able to have a shorthand with them. It all helps in things like this. So I'm super stoked because I get to focus just a little bit more maybe on the podcast. I want to end this season or this year really strong. So hoping to have some really exciting interviews for you coming up. And also by the end of the year, I will have hit 100 episodes. Can you believe that? That you have listened to 100 episodes of me. Well, I hope you have. I don't know. Like, how could you stand it? I don't know. Like, how could you do that? But, and I'm hoping that if you enjoy this podcast, you rate it on iTunes or any of your listening platforms. I truly appreciate any reviews because it helps. It always helps to let me know how I'm doing. What else is going on? I really have not watched much TV this week. So what One-Up is watching is pretty null. I'm still on Dahmer. It's hard to get through, but I am enjoying all the sets and production designer Matthew Flood Ferguson and set decorator Melissa Leach. Phenomenal job hitting this period and the blood and the gore, and it's not really over the top. It's just really that it's true that this story is so, I think, hard to digest here. But it's very well done, and I forgot to look up who the DP is, but bravo. I think it's all really well done. What else am I watching? I'm still watching that Patient on Hulu. I can't even remember what happened last week. There's nothing happening on that show. I don't know if I would recommend it as a show. I don't know. I hate to say that. Everybody's work is so good, but the show is not good. I don't get it. Unless they're setting me up for some dynamic ending here that I'm holding on to. That's about it. And then, I'm watching My Housewives because I gotta just veg out. Salt Lake is back on. Thank God. And we're winding up those Beverly Hills. Woo! What a season. I'm really glad that Rana's not coming back. So that's about it for me for what One-Up's watching this week. On this episode, I'm speaking with production designer Eve McCarney. Eve started her career as an art director in advertising, and then after deciding it wasn't really for her, she followed her path into production design in TV and film. Originally from Philly, go Birds! Eve started working independent projects in Philly, New York, and eventually making the move out to Los Angeles. Eve attributes her success to working on projects while continuing to educate herself with classes such as hand drafting, SketchUp, and others. Being a horror genre fan, Eve's current project, American Horror Stories, is right up her alley. The 10-episode anthology series includes sets that are period, modern day, and sci-fi. You can also see her work in the period western film The Ballad of Lefty Brown, and another horror anthology series on Hulu called Into the Dark. You can catch her website at www.evemccarney.com. She's got some beautiful pictures on there of her work, so I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, totally. It's been really, they're getting a cold snap right now. Like my friend was like, I'm dying, I'm freezing. And I'm like, I don't envy you, but I do miss the leaves. And
I know, I missed it. How long have you been here?
Like 2008, so like 13 years.
Yeah.
13 years. I mean, it doesn't feel like that long. Like I was in New York and I loved it. For like 3 years, I was like, oh my God. And I worked in advertising and I worked at a newspaper, and I did that whole city life. And then the fourth year I was like, I kind of hit my limit, I think. And there's only so much like, subway. And there's just things about the city that initially were so novel that became old. And then I moved here and I've never kind of looked back, I guess.
Yeah.
It just feels like, and I do what I love. I mean, part of it, I did start film in New York, but I really got my start here when I moved here, and I left my like well-paying job in the city to start a brand new career. My dad's like, what?
I don't even, I don't even, I can't conceive really working in New York. Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't, because I've been, there was like some sort of plan of mine to like, when I first started, like, okay, well, I'll get in to the union, which didn't make sense because then I'd have to join another union. And then I'll go over there and I'll go back and then I'll be close to my family. And then it was like, well, that's not going to work. And then there is like, how could I even do? I have no idea where to go. I don't know what to do over there. And it seems like a nightmare to even like dress a set. So
I remember when I first started, I was like, because I was doing those small projects where I'm doing everything, right? Like I'm the art director or designer, but like there's no decorator. So I'm doing it all.
Right.
And it's like Subway. I don't have a car. And it's like, how do you take your kit? How do you take your gear? Because at that point, like I was building a kit and things. And like out here, it was just much easier. And the resources out here, and there are prop houses. Like I went to the weapons prop house and, there were things, but it is a lot. I think it's a lot harder logistically. And I hear things about the crews, I was super early on Indie World when I did work there, but when I hear about union features and things and people that have worked with those crews, they're like, it's like, kind of like, it's very, really hard to break in.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like all family, like nepotism and almost mobbed up in a way, like where they kind of control it.
Very East Coast. It's not
very East Coast. Exactly. And I get that. And part of me likes that. But so you did impeachment, right?
I did. That's the only Ryan Murphy I've done. And it was awful in a sense of the scheduling and just the basically have everything ready right now because we don't know where we're shooting. I actually found that when Ryan directed, it was better because he was actually like, no, yes, no.
Decisive.
And then you just go with it. And I mean, there were some things like he wanted a bench, which I don't know where that came. Okay, we'll find a bench. And then it was like, I don't like the color of that bench. And I was like, I'm lucky I found one bench. Like, now I gotta go find another bench. And they're holding it up for this bench. And you're like, okay. But other than that, I actually found it's not him. It's this like persona and this like world that's been created and almost not fear, but like anxiety around it that makes it so chaotic. But I would say I got to do some wonderful sets. And I love the way it was shot. I loved our DP, Simon Dennis, and I loved that aspect of it. Like I can look at that work and draw good from it. So I'm not that scarred from it.
That's good. Didn't you walk on one of the sets and say I hate the color, and you guys had to like undress it, and then it had to get repainted?
That wasn't that. No, that was another. That was like a previous one. That was
not Giovanni Versace, was it?
No, it was one of the horror stories, and the designer and I think the decorator were like, we're done. Like I think they quit because of it too, because it had just been like back
one
and
thing
forth.
After another. Yeah.
So
it's a tough world to live in, but
But you, I mean, I know I'm jumping around a little bit, but you came right off of Into the Dark into American Horror Stories, right? So you've been doing some demon work for a little while. I mean, it's a little dark.
I love horror, and I always have. So, and my mom, like we binge horror when I'm home together, and I'm now getting my fiance. We're getting engaged. I don't know. Nice. I don't know what to call him right now, but nice. But I'm getting him into it. We watched the last two Halloweens to get ready for the new one. The next one. So nice. And this is great. And I'm like, okay, good. But yeah, I did some Blumhouse stuff early on, art directing, and it's fun to do horror. My thing with horror, I love it, and especially Ryan Murphy horror, it's so elevated. So it's kind of amazing because it can be gorgeous and it can lean horror, thriller, whatever.
Yeah.
But with A lot of horror, it's not that, right? It tends to be like, it could be a bit cheesy. Although lately I feel like the trend is more towards high concept. So I really enjoy that, but I do love doing period, and I love doing, I've done a Western, like these are the things I love to do. So this last season on Horror Stories, I had a 1961 period episode right out of the gate, which was really fun. And then we did a 1750s, like,
which was Milkmaids, right?
So colonies, and that was supposed to be Massachusetts, and we had like an 1850s flashback for an underground railroad, and supposed to be Missouri. So it was nice because we were able to branch off a little bit and do these genre hybrids of horror period, which was interesting. And we had a couple episodes this year that leaned more thriller and weren't just straight horror, and we're kind of exploring these other things. But yes, Into the Dark, I went from comedy to Into the Dark, and that was interesting because they were all holiday based. So you're doing,
which I think is such a great concept, like Valentine's Day and like I mean, and Christmas and like all that. But I started to look into it. I haven't seen the series, but I started to watch clips of it, and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna watch this. Like, oh, this is fun. Like,
it's fun.
Yeah. I don't think I can watch the pregnant lady one, but
Delivered, that leans more psychological thriller as well. And it was the same with that, where everything's a bit of a different flavor. It's why I love anthology, because you're doing standalone stories, and those were features. Those were 90 minutes.
Oh yeah. And
we were prepping them in like 16 days.
So you have let me just tell everyone, you have a 16-day prep for what, like a 3-week shoot, like a 16 or 20
That's
day
what
shoot?
it was on Into the Dark. Yeah, it was a 15-day prep for a 16-day shoot on Into the Dark. Different directors.
But when you're shooting one, you're prepping the next. Yes. There's no hiatuses between.
We had, sorry, let me correct that. We had a 4-day hiatus, and what we would do, because it was the same electric grip department. So on the 4-day hiatus, we would do the production meeting, we would do the tech scout, we would do those things. So they weren't really hiatuses in that true sense.
No. But you're not shooting while you're prepping for at least a couple days. You can catch your breath.
Couple days.
Yeah. That's nice.
On Horror Story, we had 2 days between episodes. That's it, 2 days.
Well, I don't have any. I'm prepping 4 episodes right now while I'm shooting 2. Like, I don't know. Yeah. I feel like all of a sudden I've gotten on these shows that don't have hiatuses anymore, and everyone's just okay with it. I'm like, okay.
We need a longer hiatus on Horror Stories. It would definitely, if we had like 4, or ideal would be a week, right? Like a week to kind of, because sometimes I'm prepping the episodes in 10 days, and we're designing something, we're building it, we're dressing it, and then we're shooting it, and it's that quick, and everything's brand new.
Everything's brand new. So you don't have anything like, oh, they're going to be in the lab this day, so I got a day off. Everything's new. Period. Yeah. No, that's
Milkmaids did 4 sets on stage.
It's so hard.
Dollhouse would not have been possible if it wasn't first, because we had 7 weeks to prep it, and we barely got it done.
I've shot that house. It's gorgeous.
McNally?
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
Yeah. So we had 3 dollhouses. We had the Arboretum was the exterior, the Queen Anne Victorian, but the front got modified to look like McNally. So we did a bunch of CG. So the architecture matched. We painted the front of McNally the same colors, added the gingerbread, the detailing, and the posts and all of that. So when you looked out, it matched. And then I built a small facade at the Van Wert Mansion, which is also in Pasadena, so we could get some ins and outs and tie the 2 properties together. So it was quite a bit of juggling of things. And we wallpapered that entire.
I can't believe they let you wallpaper that. I was wondering about that. At first because I didn't recognize the location till that Moroccan room.
Uh-huh.
And then I was like, oh. And I was like, oh yeah. And then I was like, oh, they probably built that off of there, because I can't believe they let them wallpaper that.
The walls were, they're in the middle of a renovation, and it was a new owner. And we talked about it with them, and we did everything we could to do it in a way that would preserve what was there, the original stenciling and all of that. But yeah, it was super important to the look to especially for me with these wallpapers, like cultivate this dollhouse in this world, and leaning Victorian, still staying within the 60s time period, and figuring the house was built in the 20s by Van Wert's dad for him as a child. So taking into account all these things, that's when I went looking for those wallpapers. And I like the idea of doing tone on tone wallpaper. So we did that in the dining room, that in the foyer. And then we liked the mural, the upper mural and it was a cove ceiling in the living room. So we left that and did the animal menagerie wallpaper in there. Custom drapes, with a back and front and the
beautifully
fringe.
Done. Yeah.
It was a lot. And
it's great color. It's great. It's a great color background playing off of all of their costumes too, which I'm sure you had to think about of like, oh, it was a white clown, right? And then like the maid's dress and everything. I mean, it's all very graphic when they're all together.
Yeah. So Lou, and I talked a lot about the color with Lonnie and John Gray, and we looked at swatches, and even Otis's pajamas being like acid green color, which actually looks more almost like a mustard, but it really played well in that environment. We really had to think about what would pop on that red. And yeah, I went more traditional with my colors, like emerald greens and golds, and then the pink being more of a pale pink, and she went fuchsia with the the nightgowns.
Yeah,
we wanted something that would pop, but then be in tone as well. So that was really fun, and it was fun to see them in the environment.
Yeah,
those bright teals and greens, and they bumped up the saturations a bit, which I think was really helpful to pop them. And then if they were, if the color was closer to the wallpaper, they would have blended, right? So we really wanted that. She almost went neon with some of it, like the waitress looks almost 50s.
Yeah.
Right. With the colors, with the blue and the pink. So it was a lot of fun, and it was everybody working together. The DP.
Who was your DP on that?
Costa Spawn.
I mean, because all of them are lit beautifully. I mean, they all like really accentuate all the sets and everything. And I don't feel like anything was fighting. Like, sometimes you see like
alternating DPs. She ended up, we had the period ones, like the harder, and then we had the more contemporary, and it turns out my one art director and Shasta were on those, and my one we ended up getting a second decorator.
Why? I mean, I'm all for it, man. I can't. You got 2 ADs, you got 2 DPs on a lot of things. You got 2 art directors. Like, I don't know why I got to do everything myself.
Exactly. And it just with the amount of sets, it made sense. But so I had one team on the odds and one team on the evens.
Perfect.
And it was just funny. The odds were all beasts. Every single one was a beast. And I'm like, I looked at my art director, and he's done a ton of period, and I'm like, I'm really glad it kind of worked out this way, because this is your jam. And Julie did a great job as well on all the period stuff, and she had a lot of fun with it because she's done multicam. She's done all sorts of things, but she was like, I know this is going to be hard, but I'm really excited. And it was great. We had a really good dynamic, but that's what I was talking about with, as you know, it's just so challenging that it's all about your team and the communication within your team, and that dynamic. And I have a good relationship with the showrunner. And so we would talk, and we just had a flow to it, and that really helped. But this last season, prepping a 1750s period piece in 10 days, 14 days was really, really hard.
Now, did they give you any sort of heads up in the beginning of the series? Like, are there scripts? Are you just getting them like first day of prep or whatever? Like,
season, I had 3 out of the gate. The first 2 were tied together. So I had soft prepped the 3rd episode as we went. When I got the 4th script, which I had a breakdown first, I didn't have the script right away. That's when it caught up to us, and we're like, oh no, and that was because it was kind of like, oh, cool. We 8 weeks, we prep, these 2 and we're shooting these 2 for 20 days or whatever. And so you feel like, oh, this is okay. And then we get into drive-in, and then it's like, now it's TikTok, and now, and it just a naughty list, and it just started to snowball. This season, I only had the first episode, and I was really hoping the same thing. I'd have a few, and I didn't. I had Dollhouse, and I didn't get Necro was the second one we shot. I know it aired 7th, but I didn't get Necro till we were shooting Dollhouse, or maybe right before we started shooting it, something like that. We didn't get it super early. It was okay, the timing of that, but there were a few that we got late. But we would get, like, you figure it out, right?
Yeah, I mean, it just sucks. I just want camaraderie that it's everywhere.
But no, as far as a heads up of, like, we knew Dollhouse was period. Actually, Necro, I'm sorry, let me correct that. Necro was I was incorrect. So use this part. Necro was supposed to shoot first. Dollhouse was supposed to shoot second. So I believe Necro I had. And we're prepping that a little bit, I think, for like a little bit. And then it was like, you know what, we're going to shoot Dollhouse first. Thank God. Because given the scale, even just the toy factory alone, it would have been impossible. So we flipped those. So out of the gate, I had 2. And then it was the next one, Aura, where we didn't get that for a little while. And then from there, and then I think Drive we got okay. And Bloody Mary, I feel like Milkmaids took a minute. But I really liked all the stories.
Which you probably needed earlier. I mean, if anything, you probably needed that one, like, early.
I knew maybe around the midpoint of the season that there was a 1700s period one coming. I didn't know what it was about, but I knew that. So I had already started to wrap my head around what ranches could work for our period buildings. And there's only so many.
Right. No, so we have a Disney ranch.
Here are 3 places that we're going to go to make this happen. So we did start out of the gate with, I had Necro, and then I got Dollhouse quickly once they realized that they were going to flip those. But yeah, it's a lot. You know, I had a really good, really, 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 really good team. My construction team is amazing. Without them, I don't know how it would have worked.
Especially, I mean, you have all these sets, but then you have like an episode like Lake where there's so much water involved. And what, like, did you do tanks? Like, did you have to like design those elements underwater? Like, how did that go?
So for Lake, and I've never done that before, so that was exciting.
Yeah.
I remember telling my agent, I'm doing an underground lake. And he was like, of course you are.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the joke of like, of course you are. Because like nothing, like your last episode can't be at all easy. So we got a real lake out near San Diego, Lake Jennings. That's where we did all the above board work and a little bit of underwater work with them diving down in. And then I built the underground city and that scape in a tank stable in the big tank. And that was really interesting. We did a lot of research on towns that were flooded to create reservoirs and dams. That's where we started because that's the storyline. And through that and looking at those buildings is how we designed our 3 structures, our remnants. And we only had so much space in that tank, but we kind of I had to create like a geography and a path for them to find, to be kind of in what looks like a normal lake, find this tricycle over onto something, find this sign, and then the guy gets grabbed and drowned, right? That's the first beat. And then the mom goes looking. Now she needs to go somewhere else. She needs to go a couple places. And then she finds these bodies. So that had to be in a different place. And then she's got to find her son later. So there was a very specific geography to how that would work. And I did all these like maps, overhead maps in my SketchUp of, once I laid out all the structures, I went, okay, like this is her route. This is the sister's route. This is the brother's route. This is where he's going to drown. This is where she's going to find these. And then I went over that with the director and the DP. And then we, craned in the pieces and bolted them down. Wow. And then the Scenics came in and did some more zhuzhing. And then it was 3 days of greens. And it was like 109 out there. And we're down in that hole and it's just like plants and, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, it was a lot of fun to do it hot, but that's the kind of stuff I love. And like, these little pearl strands coming off the tree, because we knew it would kind of go in the water. And my one regret is that I didn't swim it. I actually was a swimmer my whole life. And there was a day before shooting, because they took 2 days to fill it. And my prop master went in and GoPro'd and shot it for me and sent it to me to see if I wanted to make any adjustments. And I just couldn't get there that day to do it. But I could have gotten in and swam like my sets and stuff. And that would have been really, really cool. I did it vicariously through the video.
I think too, what's great about it is like when you're designing something like that, but it's underwater, there's movement. Like there's some sort of movement that you have to give your elements, and like in the greens, or like the how it's aged and everything. Like it's such an exploration of how you're gonna age something, or how you're gonna, you know, shoot it even. So that to me is like, oh man, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to start with that.
And it was with the research, is how, you know, we just did so much research on what would, and it was supposed to be North Carolina. So like what would be in under lakes in North Carolina, what would be the things. And there was supposed to be like a park bench. And I was like, let's look for something that's, you know, a bit more indicative of a town, right? Because it's also the 20s. So there, or was it was a street bench. And I thought, well, it's the small town with one main street probably, right? So maybe they have that, maybe they don't. And so we kind of came up with these older signs and these facades, and I wanted texture on the building so they didn't just fall flat. So we had like brick with a concrete treatment. So the brick was kind of crumbling and showing through, and we had rebar and broken bits to create that geometry. And then even selecting the trees. So my art director shot a lot of the stuff at Green Set in Jackson and sent me, and I wanted stuff that had, you know, these kind of gnarled limbs, and that, you know, there were these like driftwood kind of pieces that just looked really cool, and we kind of arranged them to create almost like a pathway through, just thinking about being the camera and moving through it. And this is of course all happening without water.
Right.
And then you put water in. And we had a couple of things float that had to get, you know, that's part of it too.
Did you have like, oh, hey, we're filling the tank, you know, Tuesday afternoon and we're shooting Wednesday morning? Or did you have a minute to adjust between filling it and shooting it?
Sorry. We did it over the 4th of July weekend. That's when it happened. So they were supposed to start filling it. They were supposed to fill, I think, Sunday, Monday, and we shoot Tuesday. They were able to start, because we were ahead a little bit, they were able to start Saturday, because we were off Monday. So it was Saturday, Sunday, and then my team, the greens guy, came out, saw some stuff floating, tacked it down when it was about halfway through. He was in waders, checking everything out when they were halfway full. Then he went back, a couple things. He was swimming in there with goggles and like doing stuff, because he kept checking in with me like, I can't. And he was supposed to leave town. He's like, I can't leave. I got to make sure. And then my prop master went the following day. And so, because we had these bodies and they were chained, so that was all prop side. So he was checking all his work. And then he's a certified diver, and so was one of his guys. So they were basically my on-set dressers.
Who was your prop master?
Mikey Trudell.
Oh, okay.
And Brooks, his assistant, was also a diver. So he became our on-set dresser for the water work days, because he could go in, and we had all these water safety people and divers. But he was able to go down. So then the first day of shooting, when I opened set, you know, he had taken a video and we looked at everything, and the director was there and we're talking about it. And we had one thing that kind of floated, and we were like, let's hold on to that. And if we need some coverage somewhere, we'll just kind of tow it around. And that was great. But everything else had held. And then we added some rocks, and there was a little bit of stuff to add on the day, and they took care of that. And then there's like a gag where the hand comes up. And so we have this little rubber gasket thing where the hand comes up, and it had to be covered with sand. So he managed all of that. And then the sign had to be bolted down and reset. And he did all of that. And so it was fantastic, but everything, amazingly,
that's awesome,
stayed and kind of worked. And we didn't go crazy with the sand, because it will murk the water.
It'll kick up.
Gets kicked up. So we had to be really minimal with that. So my painters painted the whole bottom of sand color all the way kind of partly up, and then it's black. So, you know, the hope is it falls off. And it just, it was great. It was a really cool experience. I've never done anything.
That sounds like something, I mean, that's, when I hear you describe it, it's like, God, our jobs are so cool. Like, you would never think you get to do shit like this. And like, I never thought I would be able to do that. And look, we did it, and it's on camera, and they shot it, and it worked out miraculously. Like, there's also this thing I always think of it's kind of miraculous that anything really gets done through all of these people in all of these departments coordinating this, like, say, this scene, and the preparation that goes into it, and even the writing, and everything has to work together, and they shoot it, and then, you know, people enjoy it. Like, it's amazing. Really.
Yeah. It is. It was a really fun season. Season 1, it felt like Into the Dark was boot camp for horror stories.
Mm.
Because
Yeah.
it was the thing, and it was new every time, and it was horror, it was all of that. And then this was like, okay, you know, more money, more time, more, you know, more of everything to an extent. Still not enough, as always.
Yeah.
And season 1 was the first season ever, and so we were kind of getting our footing and figuring it out. So season 2 was, we knew what we were doing, right? We knew, like, with the producers, we all had like a rapport at this point coming back. So it felt a little easier in that regard.
Did you have any did you have any repeating directors? Did you have any?
One, Max Winkler, he did The Naughty List, and then he did Aura this season. He's lovely. But otherwise they were all new directors, and Manny wrote most of the scripts, and he had written a lot last season, and so he tends to weigh in on the creative as a writer producer, and he and I have a great rapport, so that's always nice. I love his stories, and it was fun this season because we were kind of, you know, Drive was very noir, you know, neon saturated, and then Facelift was like, you know, Hollywood Regency.
I love the Facelift. I mean, I love Judith Light. You can never go wrong.
I was like, oh my God.
I know. She was on Impeachment, and I was like, I can't believe I'm in the same room with who's the boss. Like, I can't remember her name on the show right now.
I know.
But I was like, oh my God, this is just, it's one of those moments when you're like, this is why I'm here. Like, this woman, whatever, not the woman, but the show, like, all of these things inspire you. And then you get to meet or work with these people, and you're like, this is crazy. Like, and she was so nice.
She was so nice. She was so nice. She was absolutely lovely. And it was a lot of fun to do the sci-fi element of, like, you know, like the face scanner and that kind of stuff, because I love science fiction. So that's something I really want to delve into at some point.
So were you always into sci-fi, and that's what drove you into production design? Like, how did you know that you wanted to do this? Like, were you just into like sci-fi films or horror films, and then both, yeah,
both? But it wasn't really my love for those that drove me into it. It was, I was working at an advertising agency as an art director, and I had just gotten promoted, and I remember I did this course on concepting ads, and it was to like make myself better. I always want to kind of be the best I can be. And after the class, I went, I hate this. I was like, this is not what I want to do. Like, after that, I was like, okay.
That's why you got to try things, so you know what you hate. It's like dating. You got to date a lot of dudes and be like, now I hate that, so I know I'm not going to go for that.
Yeah, exactly. So we did. So I, as I'm doing that, I had this wonderful creative director, Anthony, and I'm talking to him like, oh, I don't think I want to do this, because I could have stayed on and become a creative director eventually and had quite a nice career and life in New York. And I just thought, I don't love it, and I want to find something I love. I want to find my passion. And he's like, well, what do you love? And I was like, well, I will always love movies. Like, my mom used to rent like 4 blockbusters a weekend as a kid. And, you know, and well, maybe you can design posters like for movies, you know, movie posters, because I was heavy into graphic design. That's my background. And I'm thinking, that sounds lame, you know, like, I don't really think that's like, I mean, you're not really in it, right?
No.
You're just kind of,
but you're selling it. It's kind of a big, it used to be bigger.
Super important.
Think about like all of those movie posters that were like, oh, what's that about? Now I couldn't even tell you what a movie, I can't even tell you the last movie poster I've seen that made me want to see.
All you see really are billboards now, right?
Yeah.
For things.
And it's usually for your consideration. That's all LA is. Exactly. All year long, it's for your consideration.
Only.
Yeah.
So that year, the Oscars, and they were still called art directors, because I think it's in 2012, right? So, and it's like the Oscar for art direction. I'm like, I'm an art director. And it was that light bulb moment where I went, well, what is that? And I start researching it. And I'm like, oh, well, I already do this and I already do that. And I'm good at that. And, you know, I had studied art history and I've been an artist my whole life, painting and drawing. Um, and I take sculpture and photography. So I've always really had a heavy hand in it. It's one of the reasons why I went into graphics. My dad's like, shame you can't do something with your creative side. And so here we are. And I thought, well, I'm going to try this. And I signed up for a short film on Craigslist.
Nice.
And I got the job and I had $300 in 3 days to do everything for this short film.
Millionaire.
I'm making like kilos of heroin in my apartment on the floor with like flour and like plastic wrap and tape. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I'm like, this is so fun. And I like put it on my kitchen table and then there's like a little alley with the view. And I'm like, oh my God, my neighbor's gonna think I'm like a drug dealer.
Was this Philly or was it?
New York.
New York. Oh, well then, yeah. I mean, both. But yeah.
And I'm like, oh God. And so I show up the first day of filming is at a prison in Queens. And I'm wearing flats and like, I had no clue what I was doing. Like my feet were killing me after that day. So I walk in and I'm like, oh my God. I was like, this is amazing. And then, you know, it's social. It's always changing. There's always a new challenge and the collaboration. And it just clicked and I went, this is it. And then began my journey to learn the role fully. And so I took a course at SVA on production design. I learned how to do breakdowns and worked under an amazing set designer, production designer, Italian production designer that taught me kind of that logistical side, which I'm brained that way. I'm wired that way. So that was really helpful to just understanding the task ahead. Yeah. You know, and I props and all of it. And that really benefited me in my early career. And then when I moved to LA, I took a course at UCLA to learn hand drafting. And then I taught myself SketchUp. And then I started using SketchUp. And the more I did it, the better I got at it. And so the construction side of things was the thing I needed to learn the most about. Everything else was I either already knew or was pretty second nature to me. But it was the building that initially frightened me. Yeah. I didn't know how to do it. Yeah. And I learned it. And now like all I want to do is build all the time. Because, you know, you can make it whatever you want it to be.
Yeah, you can put in those details and your paint colors and your wallpapers and your moldings and really give the wall's character before I get there, which is always really nice. Because whenever they're like, oh, it's just a one wall set, we'll just throw up a flat. I'm like, please don't please give it a piece, please, chair molding, anything. Like, can I get something just to
help you out?
To help me. Yeah. But yeah, I would have to say, I think that it's commendable for you to educate yourself probably on the job and through classes. I'm assuming like you did them both like sort of hand in hand, and then because it only helps you be prepared for your next job. Like it only can make you more valuable as an art director, as assistant art director, anything, to be prepared in knowledge and to be good at it. Like that's, I find that really commendable that you did both.
I still take classes. I took an advanced SketchUp not that long, probably like right in the middle of COVID or maybe towards the end of that first surge. But when I got good enough at SketchUp and I was using it, I was like, I want to now be like better. So I would take SketchUp. There was the SketchUp school, there's the ADG classes, there's all these classes. And so I would take as much as I could. And I'm now an advanced user. I taught myself render software, right, to be able to do renders and concepts. Then took a course on that to bone that up and be even better. And I learned some shortcuts I didn't know. And that was helpful because it can take, days to do a concept render.
Oh, yeah.
SketchUp. But it was important because I wanted to be able to present my ideas in that way, because that's so big for what I do is the vision, right? And what is your vision? Now I have concept artists for the most part. Yeah. I didn't always have that. So on ballot, I really wanted to show what the governor's office was going to look like. So I was able to create that sketch from my SketchUp. I was able to create that concept art, and the director was like, wow, this is great. And I just wanted to be able to do it. It took a really long time, but it was worth it. But yeah, so I that's the biggest piece of advice I have for people looking to get into the business or to move up in the business, is to educate yourself there's so many resources out there where you can
Yeah.
learn programs.
Yeah.
Or bone up on things or become an advanced user. I don't do Vectorworks or CAD. I thought about it and I realized it's a skill that I don't need.
Yeah.
And if I learn it, then it could be putting me on a different path that I don't quite want to go down. They're amazing.
I knew CAD and I knew Vectorworks a long time ago, and then I taught myself SketchUp through that because it's really kind of just an easier version of everything, and especially easier for our world. I don't think in the amount of changes and everything that we go through that CAD and Vectorworks are probably the better route. I think it is SketchUp and like that route to go anyway with the amount of
especially now with
changes.
Layout and there's like all these tools that are enhancing that. I mean, when you're talking about a super detailed piece of
like a piece of truss
molding, or a special, like the dollhouse bedroom had like a octagonal kind of dome.
That ceiling, oh my god, that ceiling was fantastic.
Thanks. Sometimes I'll dream ideas when I'm like, something, so I'll wake up at 2 a.m. and be like, the ceiling should be pitched. And octagonal, like the thing, there's an octagon in the middle, and that's where the lamp's gonna go. And like I had this whole thing, and I came in the next day and told my art director, and he's like, that's cool. And I was like, like in the middle of the night, and he's like, cool. And it was the same for the office in the factory. So because we built that whole office, and I was like, oh, I want the ceiling to go up, and I want it to be a skylight. You see it for all of like a minute.
I know. I actually wanted to ask you about that. Was that all a build? The factory?
So we shot at Lacey Street downtown. Like it's funny, we could not
perfect for that set.
It was so perfect, and you know, it's been years. Everybody shot there, right, years and years and years ago, but it's been a long time, and I came up with it when, oh my God, Lacey Street, because we were looking for all these specific things, and it had what we needed. It had the exterior we needed and had the interior space. And then we built within the space. So we shortened that space by half. So we had a dividing wall with a door, and we added windows so they could blow out some light, and a backing wall so you could get people coming in and out. In and out of the space. Then at the other end, there's a big window at the top, a circular window, which was really cool and graphic. We had to demo. There were plywood between the supports that were blocking the view to the window, and we had to get an engineer out and make sure we could actually pull them down, which we did. And then we had to get
you're like in the whole goddamn building to
it was nuts. It was such a big and we're in that. I mean, it's a part of the story, but I just wish we were in it for a little longer. And then the office, he wants to be looking out on everybody, and initially we were talking about putting it up, but with the way the ceilings were and the beams, it didn't make a lot of sense. So we did the thing with the pitch ceiling and a little bit of a skylight. And we did that wood with the mirrors so he could be centered looking out on the floor. And then we capped, there was some brick that was a bit down. So we capped that with wood, left the window kind of capped around all that. And then we had to do a lot of work to bring the space up a bit because it was a bit too down. But it worked.
It was for the scene. I mean, it worked. I was like, whoa, this is like a huge build. I was like, I wonder. I didn't recognize that at all.
The amount she did with the set deck. We built the doll head drying racks because they don't exist.
God. Yeah, the big machine that comes down to mold the dolls. Did you build? You had to build all that, right?
Yeah. So interestingly enough, that fell to my team. We had several things. The injection infusion machine. We built the casing, we did the research and drew that up. And then we needed the parts to make it work. And it ended up falling to my art director and I, and we went to an aerospace place, and we just walked around, and I was like, this looks cool. And we brought all these parts back to stage, and we just played around with the configurations.
That's what I'm in now. I'm in that world of like, just pick it and it'll look cool in space.
Right. Yeah. And there's like a part where you want to be accurate, but you also want it to look really cool. So there's a line there, and honestly, you couldn't really see in the older machines, but I wanted to be able to see parts of this. I just thought it'd be more interesting. So I had two versions, and then I'm looking at it and I'm going, no, I want to combine these. And I did that and put together a board for the director, and he's like, I love it. And so then we had the pieces, and then had a hand off to special effects to do the liquid and all of that. And then the prop master got the doll mold made.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing. That was its own thing. So then it had to move, and it had to move to connect to that. And then you had the human doll mold, and everybody's like, whose job is that? And I was like, well, it's us. You know what I mean? It's
know.
us. We don't
It's a
really know
bummer,
where
but
that
it's
lands.
us. But
It's
I wouldn't have
somehow
paid
us.
for that. I don't think it's set deck. I don't know about
It's definitely
construction.
not set deck, but it's
Yeah.
kind of like, is it special effects? Because the injection infusion machine,
Yeah.
quite honestly, could have been a special effects bill, but there were a lot of effects. They're not as big of a department. You know, my construction guys are like, I don't think this is us. I was like, please just build me the housing. Please just build me the housing. Like my
Yeah.
art director and I source the parts.
I think
And we
it's
kind of
both.
have to keep it.
Yeah.
It's one of
both.
those gray areas.
Yeah.
And then the doll mold is a specialty thing. So we got a sculptor in and we sculpted it in foam. And then we 3D printed the face of the actress's face. And then that went in and then was sculpted. And then that got coated, hard coated. And it was a process. And it was,
Wow.
we had to measure the actress several times, get the depths and everything. So
She's
it fit
beautiful.
her.
I love that chick. She was so good in the First Ladies. She played a young Betty Ford.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God, she was fantastic. And I was thinking about her. I'm like, she looks like a doll. What good casting. Like,
totally. And she was, I mean, okay, you can measure me again, you know, because we're like, oh, sorry, can we measure you? Like, we just wanted to make sure,
yeah.
you know, she's laying in this has to be perfect. And it all worked. And, you know, it's a bit scary as well. And then you had how do we hack the machine for a human sized doll? So that there was a conversation about how that was going to work and what, so it was quite a bit of engineering on Dollhouse. It was all these pieces. The escutcheon plate was custom. There was concept art because it was a face. Yeah. And the mouth was the key. The handles are from
And I would think hair and makeup has to get in on that too. Like, it's just really a multi-department procedure there. Because you'd have to have, especially when she's at the end, the doll, like the prosthetics and everything, you still have to match up with what you guys made, or like, you know, seemingly like it has to look in the same vein.
So yeah, our special effects makeup guy did like the hands, arms, and the face, right, with like a bit of a neck. And then, you know, obviously with the CG when it broke, there were so many moving parts, even in the dollhouse foyer. And it's a detail that you might not pick up. I saw this rabbit fabric, and it was like these little bunnies, and I'm like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I was like, can we find this, to Julie? And she's like, and my PA was really good at research. I kicked it to her. She found a place in like Massachusetts that had it. And we ordered the fabric and we did the bench in that, and we did the curtains.
Oh, beautiful.
And to me, it's those little touches that just tie in with that emerald wallpaper. And that had like a nice sheen and a texture to it. And it's just, you know, everything, the little reading nook with the little balloons on strings.
Oh,
and, you
yeah.
know, the green curtains. And
I loved it all. I mean, I think Dollhouse is like such visually just so perfect for that script. Like, you guys nailed it. It's really well done. Yeah, they're all good, but like that one I think stands out to
very
me.
Special.
Yeah. It's definitely
I'm really happy with it.
Who did you have any input on like the masks look? Like, did that play into like the production design at all, or was that props? That
was honestly, it was there. The director wanted eyes without a face. There's that, I think it's from the 50s. Mm-hmm. He loved the way that mask felt, really creepy and not too distinctive, but there's just something really eerie about it. So that was his pitch, and Ryan liked that. So then it became, well, how do we design these? So Jason Hammer, our special effects makeup, is the one that made those. He kind of does, he did Ball, you know, the demon, he does all of that stuff. When it comes to creating it to that way, it'll kick to Jason. If it was something, let's say it's a Halloween episode and we need masks, and that would kick to Mikey props. But in this situation, it was Jason creating custom. And we went through several rounds. I loved the concept. I thought this is great. And it was kind of in line with what we were already doing. So I was looped in on that, but it was more, I think, as a little bit as an observer. And it was more about John Gray, Lonnie, and Ryan kind of figuring it out. Went through several rounds to get, I think, what they felt was right. And I think the end product was quite perfect.
Creepy. So creepy.
Yeah, so creepy. I know dolls are creepy.
I was telling a friend that I was going to interview you, and I was like, yeah, it's the American Horror Stories. And I was like, I don't know. Ever since I had kids, I'm really like, I don't want to watch scary shit and everything. But what's great about this series, it's not like, because Ryan Murphy can be really over the top a little bit with everything, but it's psychological more, and it's invoking a lot of feelings. And I think with all of your designs, like the Milkmaids and Lake and like the Dollhouse, the design really lends to like invoking these emotions. Like I just think I don't know how you did them all, but they're all so well done. So a really great job on that. I really enjoyed it
so much.
Yeah,
it's not easy.
No.
I'll tell you that.
No.
You finish and you feel like you just run like the longest marathon in the world,
because they're movies. I mean, they're mini movies. The quality of what you're putting out, it's a little film. Like it's not, it's not Who's the Boss. It's not.
Right.
It's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's funny. There's such a, and I find this across the industry, and I'm sure you can attest to this too. There's such a bar at this point.
Yeah.
I haven't really seen anything that looks bad in a really long time. I mean, everything looks really good.
Yeah.
And everything looks feature quality. I mean, for the most part on TV these days, everything is aiming towards that. And yet as a show, we're on a much tighter timeline with tighter budgets and everything else. We don't have the luxury of that super long prep time and to really concept this stuff out. And it makes it more challenging. On Into the Dark, they were a little more willing, because we were a little more indie, special effects would get cut or locations would get cut, or we would condense things, we were able to do those things on that series. And that's what ultimately saved us. And, you would have to kind of be like, this is the best we could do.
Yeah.
And I'm very proud of the work I did. I think my favorite is Current Occupant, and it's period 70s and psychological. And, and I think we did a great job given all of our limitations, but you kind of had that, but that's not the case, as you know.
No.
On this type of series that you and I have done, it's the expectation, the demand that is there, and you have to deliver, and it pushes you to do things I think that you don't really think are possible.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I came out of the season kind of like, okay.
Yeah, wow, I came out of impeachment and I was like, I don't ever want to work again.
After the first season, I took the rest of the year off. I was like, I went to Europe. I saw friends. I went home and visited family. I took, and then it started back up in January, and we finished in August. So it was nice. And this year I am looking, and we're chasing some things, and I'm fully ready to work again. I guess it's just because I've done it. Maybe it was a little easier.
It helps you to take a break. Like I took off from March to May this year. Nice. Like not even I'm not even telling anyone I'm not working. I'm just going under the radar. I'm out of sight. And it was great. And you need, and I need to like fall back in love a little bit and forget the pain. I need to forget the trauma a little bit and fall back in love. And then I'm like, let's go. Let's take on this big show.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's me. That's my cycle.
I absolutely need a break after most shows. Like it doesn't necessarily have to be months, but a month. There is a period for me to kind of come down off that adrenaline, sleep in, chill out, go out to lunch, do kind of and then I'm like, okay. And I have a lot of friends and coworkers that will roll right into both my art directors roll right into, and I was like, you're nuts.
Well, I up until that break this year, minus COVID, I don't even know the last time I've had a break. So I loved COVID. COVID was awesome.
Me too.
And then I needed that break again. Just, I gotta hang out with, I have almost 4-year-old twins, so I gotta hang out.
Wow.
So, are you watching anything now you're really enjoying and inspiring? Anything?
Let's see. I'm watching a lot of. We've been in a big Halloween push because it's October. So we're trying to watch mostly scary movies, and lately we've been putting on a lot of vintage horror. Like so, AMC's playing.
Oh yeah. Well, I always loved TCM. Always did 30 Days of like that's always my favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, whatever we can find that's on, we've kind of been putting on. So it's been nice because I've been watching stuff I haven't seen in a really, really long time. And then,
Nice.
we rewatched the Halloweens because the next one launches next weekend. Um, there's so much stuff getting ready to come out right now
I
in this
know.
vein on the streaming. Um, I find inspiration in everything I watch to some extent. I think you can draw inspiration or gain a perspective or an idea on something. So I love to watch stuff because it does inspire me and give me new ideas or new takes on things. But I would say I watched Monster and I thought that was really well done. It felt true to the characters from everything I've read.
Which is
That
Dahmer.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I'm 5 episodes in. I gotta take it slowly. I don't know. My husband actually we did a half episode last night and he goes, I don't think I want to watch the rest of this. And I'm like, I
Yeah.
know. The thing
Hard.
about it being true, and I know some of the scenes are like played up, but I mean
Yeah.
basically this is true. Because he told everything he did, basically. It's like, oof, it is a hard watch, I find. I,
It is. We binged a bunch of it and same. My boyfriend was like, he's not a big horror person and I find it interesting, but it's also a lot. It's a lot of darkness to
yeah,
take in.
yeah.
And we skipped around a little bit,
Mm.
and that kind of I think helped. We kind of went to 6 because that was a really good character one, and then I think we went to 10, and because it's like we get it, right? It's like we
Yeah,
know
yeah. We know. It's
it's the
just,
same thing to these people over and over, basically.
I do
And
think what I like about it, because I had talked to the production designer, Matthew Flood Ferguson, is they were doing Dahmer the same time we were doing impeachment, and he was like, "Oh yeah, our colors is urine. What's your color?" And I'm like, "Oh, we're oatmeal. Like, we're flamin' oatmeal. Like, what are you?" He's like, "Oh yeah, we're all urine. Like, that's our color palette."
that's
I'm like,
so funny.
"Oh
I
my
do
god."
think I remember hearing that because I think
Yeah.
we were on season 1 when they were doing Monster, and we were supposed to get Evan Peters to reprise his role as Tate, and just in the first
Oh
episode
right.
cameo, and he had Horror Story, Monster, and I think there was something else even in play, and it was just like we just couldn't the timing
Yeah.
we couldn't get him, and then he was scouting with us on the first episode on Dollhouse.
Oh fun.
He was around shadowing a little bit,
Sure.
and he's lovely, and he loved the bedroom. He was like, "This bedroom
Good.
is amazing," and I was like, "Are you serious?" I was like, "Thank
That's
you."
the funny thing.
Like, wow. Like,
I don't like him as an actor. I don't know what it was in the original Horror Story that made me like
mhm.
not like him. But then he was so good in Mayor of Easttown, and
So good in that.
so
Yeah.
good. And then he's so good in this. I'm like, all right, now I
Yeah.
like you. Like I think.
He's a really good actor, and he's method. I was talking to somebody one of the
Uh-oh.
show, and he said he was dark. Like during that, he said he was dark. Like he was just in that space, and I always find that so interesting.
Yeah.
Because he's very sweet and nice and easy to talk to, and then to imagine him in that mental space of Dahmer,
Yeah.
that's really interesting. It's why I love what we do. It's so
Yeah.
it's all these different artists and all these different crafts.
Yeah. It is great. It is. I have actors in like full makeup now, and
Okay.
it's great to see how their like mannerisms, because they're older, like how they're
Oh,
portraying being older. Like I'm kind of fascinated when I'm watching dailies of like, oh wow, they're doing a really good job of
oh, cool.
being like older. So yeah, I could never be an actor. I don't know about acting.
I know me
I could
either.
never do that. Don't judge me on this. Every time I start a show, I gain 5 pounds. I don't know how they keep it together. I
Right?
don't know.
Like,
Yeah.
stop bringing donuts, Crafty,
I
please.
know. I don't even.
Oh my
It's
God.
stress belly. I have stress belly.
I can't help myself. It's like I get on set and then and the bad things are there and I'm like, and you're stressed. And so
Yeah.
you're like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
stressed.
I deserve
I want that
this.
comfort
Yeah.
food, whatever those things are.
Well,
And
I think one of the best things for me is now a crafty's like behind like a shroud. Like you
yeah,
can't, so you have
yeah,
to ask someone for what you want, and it's kind of embarrassing to me. I don't
yeah.
know. I've done it and I'll be like, "No, I don't want that donut. I want the chocolate one." And then you're like, "This is weird. I can't be asking for this. Forget it." So that saves me from going to Crafty, but the embarrassment of it. We got a big game today. I don't know if you're. I know you're from Philly, but Eagles fan. We got a big game today.
Big Eagles fan.
Big game. That's why I was like, oh. I had to check what time the game was on before I scheduled this. I was like, "Oh, it's a late game," and so it'll be okay because I didn't even know. I didn't even know our Philly connection. But yeah. So you're into football at all? You watch it?
Yeah.
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 I do.
5-0.
I love football. Nice. I know. And I'm on a fantasy league and I was trying to get our quarterback and someone snaked him as like a backup and I was like devastated. I was like, no. So I actually, and this is like blasphemy. I ended up with the Dallas quarterback and then he got hurt. So now I've got the Raiders hurt, which is better, right? Because I had a backup. So I'm using him somehow. And I haven't checked in a couple weeks because I'm terrible at this. Because I know about my team, right? But I don't know, like most people know so much about all the teams. I don't know about our team. I did get like, I tried to snag as many Eagle players as I could so that when I watched the game, I get excited. I got like our kicker and like somebody from our defensive line.
Yeah, defense. Good.
I got defense and the kicker and then like one receiver, I think. And then it's a mix of all these other teams, but I haven't even checked in. And then I looked the other day and I'm like second in the draft. And and I'm like, I have like the quarterback that's not as good as the quarterback I had, even though I was like, how do I pick this quarterback? But he was like the best quarterback available.
Well, this is why I don't do fantasy because I don't want to cheer for other teams. I don't want to. Exactly. It's I love the Eagles and anyone who plays Dallas. That's always the.
That's exactly it. So he's hurt. So I don't have anybody else from Dallas. And like I said, I'm not cheering for them because I haven't been paying attention. I'm just somehow doing well.
Yeah.
And I'm going to try to trade for Hurts because.
Well, it's a good strategy. Not paying attention, just letting it play out. As long as your people don't get hurt, you got a good team. Then you got a solid team.
I keep checking in every once in a while. Yeah. But I will be watching the game. Yeah. I love it. I get so excited in August when like it's about to be.
Oh my God, I love it. There's a point in like July where you're like, when does it come? I have so much time on Sundays. I don't know what to do with myself. And then you're like, I can't wait. And then I don't pay attention to preseason, and then it's the real thing, and it's so great.
Yeah. I'm the same. Preseason, I'm like, No. We did go to a preseason game. I took my dad and brother for their birthday. It was August, and. Nice. At the link, and that was really cool because I hadn't been there. It's nice.
Oh, it's so nice, isn't it?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
I really like it.
It's a great stadium. It's great views everywhere, and it's great. Yeah, it's
pretty. Do you baseball at all?
I mean, I love the Phillies, so I'm in. But
they're in the hunt right now. I mean, they were doing really, really well.
I try to go when the Phillies play the Dodgers because I like Dodger Stadium. I think that's a good stadium.
I went when we beat them. We were in that 4-game series. And
yeah.
I think the last game, and I'm wearing my Phillies shirt, and my boyfriend's a huge Dodger. He's an LA guy, and we're meeting his friends, and everybody's so polite. Like I'm at the table, like, oh, you must be really happy. And I really I was paying attention, but I'm like, I hadn't been to Dodger Stadium, so it's really cool. And they're like, wow, and they're being really, and I'm like, this would not happen at home. Like if you were wearing that gear and walking around, people would not be politely telling you.
No. I was at a game where I wasn't at the game where they pelted Santa, but I was at a game where someone in at the links, they just started pelting someone with San Francisco jerseys on, like with snowballs. And I was like, oh my God, this is awful. But I think the Dodgers fans got their hands slapped so much for being from that guy, God forbid, being, hurt, and you can't even tailgate at the Dodgers. Right. Like, it's such a bummer, but they ruined it for everyone, that poor guy. Yeah. But yeah, I don't follow baseball, but I'm a Phillies fan. I'm a Sixers fan. I'm just a Philly fan.
I love the Flyers too. I'm the same. I'm all Philly all day long. And South Jersey, you still stay Philly
that's
fan.
Philly. Yeah, that's Philly. But that's how you distinguish, oh, no, you're from New York. If you like the Giants or you like the Yankees, you're from New York.
I met a girl, I was on a show, and I forget what show now, but she wore a vintage Cunningham jersey.
Nice.
And I remember seeing him play, right? And so I'm like, oh, you're from Philly? And she's like, yeah. And I was like, whereabouts? And then she's like, oh, no. She's like, Cherry Hill. And I'm like, girl. Over the bridge, and because she's like saying it, and then that she was caught because the minute I'm like, where, she's like, I can kind of see it in her face, because it doesn't matter to like anybody that's not from there. They're not going to. I mean, and it is Jersey's so cool. I used to bartend in Cherry Hill. I mean, it's not like
I was Little Miss Cherry Hill.
You were? Oh my God, how funny.
I don't know how my mom made that. I don't know what zip code she lied about for us to like get in that one, but whatever. I do think, I always say I'm from Philly. I have more collective years in Philly than I do South Jersey. So that's.
You actually live there. I think I get it. I'm from Cherry Hill. Where the fuck is that? You say you're from Philly, everybody knows where that is. It makes sense. Cherry Hill is right over the bridge. You live there. I say Philly. I'm from Lansdale, but it's 30 minutes outside. I think everybody fibs a little. It was just funny because
you got caught by someone else. I like that during this interview. I feel like a little bit of our Philly accents came out a little bit.
Oh, totally. I still say water.
Water. No, I can't give that up. It doesn't sound right. And then I have to stop myself to say water. And I still didn't
think about it.
Yeah, I can't do it.
When I first moved out here, I was like, can I get a water? And the waitress was like, what? And I was like, you know what I said?
Yeah, water.
She was like, and my friend's like, uh-oh. And I'm like looking at the woman like, don't make me say it again.
There's enough Philly people out here that they know what water is. They don't have to pretend.
I feel like we have I like the East Coast edge out here, because I feel like, in New York, it's New York, and in that way it's tougher actually than Philly, and people are, anyway, it's more real, right? It's more real, but I've found that it's benefited me out here, I think.
Oh yeah.
Because you're just so forthright. Yeah. And kind of blunt and everything.
We're not as laid back. But we enjoy the laid backness, but like we know how to get up and go. We gotta we need, we know where the hustle has to come in.
Exactly, and I do love that. This has been fun.
I know, thank you. I hope I get to meet you. So, I mean, you're in LA. Wasn't Eve just a delight? And I do feel like our Philly accents came out a little bit. I didn't even know. It was such a nice discovery that she's from Philly, and we got to talk a little Philly before the interview started. So it was super nice to just dive right into someone feeling. I don't know, when you find out someone's from like your hometown or anything, there's always just a little connection there. So that's always nice. And I really hope it came through in the interview of how much work it's going into anthology, limited series, or series like this. Just how much prep you actually get versus your shooting, and the importance, I feel, that a hiatus gives your creative people and all of your rigging people and just everyone to sort of break and refocus into the next episode and try to give your 100% into there. So I haven't really had a lot of hiatuses lately on shows that I've been working on, and I miss him a lot. So yeah, I'm super thankful that Eve gave me that time. And if you can, check out American Horror Stories. I think it's I watched it on Hulu. Yeah, that's good. And I'm excited to see what she does next. I like that she's a horror or sci-fi fan, and that she's just going for it and enjoying the work and the genre. So thank you, Eve, and go birds. I hope you got an earful. I'm Kim Wanna for Decorating Pages. With holidays right around the corner, The perfect gift for anyone who has a pool and loves to float in style is Stogie Floaty Luxury Pool Float. Available now on Etsy and stogiefloaty.com.
Welcome to Pro Tips for the Pros, brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads. In this series, we'll explore essential advice for professional contractors to deliver outstanding renovation results. Let's dive in. Clear communication is key to a successful renovation. Keep the customer informed at every stage of the project, addressing any concerns or questions promptly to maintain trust and satisfaction. Thank you for joining us for this pro tip on planning thorough renovations. Stay tuned for more expert advice brought to you by Floor & Decor Bailey's Crossroads.
A lot of people tolerate ordinary. Ordinary bathrooms, kitchens, entryways. Well, not on your watch. If you're a pro, you've got a new partner in town. Floor & Decor. From tile to wood to stone, Floor & Decor has more styles and job lot quantities of Schluter, Mapei, Laticrete, and other brands pros trust. Come see a whole new way to wow with Floor & Decor. Coming soon to Bailey's Crossroads.